Welcome inside episode 450 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. And just before hitting record today, I turned to Pillsy. I said, Tim Stützle needs more talent on his wings now and forever. We figured out he's a centerman. Took long enough, but now that we have him in the middle, who should play on the wings but Pillsy? It looks like DJ Smith is moving things around to give him a little jolt offensively.
Yeah, Ross, our prayers have been answered, and just for now, we'll tell you there's a little bit more speed on Timmy's left wing now than he's used to, and the Belleville Senators are in action tonight, but we're going to have to wait till tomorrow afternoon to see the Ottawa Senators as they're up against the Tampa Bay Lightning at 1 o'clock at the CTC.
It's not a thunderstorm of a Lightning team that you're typically used to, as they're missing some key components. We'll have a full preview of that game, and I got to give you props, Pillsy. 10 out of 10 tees on who's moving up to play with Timmy. All that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today is Friday, December 10th, and Pillsy, is it just me, or does it feel like the Ottawa and Belleville Senators haven't played in forever?
Yeah, we got used to the whole 5 games in 7 nights idea, and then Belleville played on the back-to-back games in the weekend as well. So there was a lot of Senators hockey going on, but I think us included, Sens fans and Senators players, everyone needed a little bit of a break here.
We're coming in hot today. Tons of great topics to dive into. And what extended the break was Belleville's game on Wednesday being postponed. Yep. I forget even who they were supposed to play, but there was a COVID scare. Hartford had a COVID scare on the other side. So that game got postponed to a later date. But with Ottawa, they had the day off on Wednesday. Then yesterday got back into the practice ice. JBD makes his return to the NHL, and Lassie Thompson was sent down. We discussed that in yesterday's show. Still, same pairings on defense today. I'm unsure whether it's Hetherington and Mete in, JBD and Del Zotto out, or if it's flipped the other way. To you, does it make much of a difference who sits and who's in between those two pairs?
I don't think so. I think obviously we want to get JBD in. What's the point of calling him up to the NHL to have him sit in the press box? But I think DJ even mentioned it. He's probably going to switch around the D pairings and lines quite a bit in the next 3 games, all Florida games also. So I don't think we're going to see this line for decor at least be the same throughout these games. I think he's going to switch things up. So if they do start with Mete and Hetherington, I bet next game you're probably looking at JBD and or Del Zotto coming in.
Enough with the tease, however. We got to get to the change, which was up front. We're pulling up the lines for today's practice, courtesy TSN 1200. And as we mentioned, the D-Corps seems like they found a top 4 they like right now, with Nick Holden partnered with Artem Zub. Of course, Thomas Chabot in his usual spot on the top unit. Can you believe, now Jack Richardson pointed this out on Twitter, 64 shots on goal for Thomas Chabot, 1 shot behind Brady Tkachuk for the team lead, yet he still doesn't have a goal. Got to think he's overdue. He's playing with Zaitsev up front, Norris, Tkachuk, Batherson, and then here we go. Tim Stützle, now flanked by Flash Formenton. On the 10th day of the month, number 10 moves up alongside Tim Stützle and Connor Brown. The third line, Chris Tierney, Zach Sanford, and Tyler Ennis. And the fourth line, don't call it the fourth line. Sorry, DJ. Dylan Gambrell. And now Nick Paul on the left side with Austin Watson. Your initial thoughts, Pillsy, on the left wing shuffle?
Well, I like it. And we talked about this. Formenton needed to get his game going, but we also talked about how a guy who relies on his explosiveness and his speed, having COVID-19 is going to affect you. And even as a young, healthy athlete that's double vaccinated, it's going to have a major effect, and it's going to probably take you back a step or two. And Alex Formenton even kind of shed some light on that himself. He was saying it was hard for him to get back into the flow and the speed of things. So that's why we saw him play a more limited role. We didn't really see a lot of his patented breakaways. And now that he's kind of gotten over that little stint of COVID, thankfully, he feels like he's got his game back, and the results are showing on the ice. He's got a bunch of points in the last couple of games. So he definitely deserves this chance, Ross. And I think out of anyone, he was the right guy to put there to try to, really boost and spark Stutzle's offense as well.
It's just that his game complements Tim Stützle so well. Their speed through the neutral zone. I think Timmy needs that in a guy to break the puck from defensive zone. And I've actually been really impressed with Timmy's defensive zone coverage as a centerman. Now, albeit, yes, there's that goal. What's the guy's name? I always forget him. Wallstrom.
Yep.
When Wallstrom got on the other side of him, and yeah, those mistakes are going to happen. Again, bouncing puck, that was kind of just a fluke play in itself. But overall, I think Timmy's been great at center. However, how much better for him to break out of the zone. Now, this is no disrespect to Nick Paul, but Alex Formenton just brings that element of speed, and Timmy can transition the puck so much better with him. So that's what I'm most looking forward to seeing. But what I'm most scared of is now he doesn't have the safety net of Nick Paul taking faceoffs for him, which has happened throughout his time at center. Now, does that worry you as much as me?
It definitely worries me, especially when you're looking at your second line, a big part of your top six that is probably going to struggle in faceoffs for a bit here until Timmy gets his skills up in the faceoff dot at an NHL level.
Yeah, it's tough right now. Timmy's 31% through 48.
And he doesn't have that upper body strength, right? That a lot of these centermen have.
So
that's
he's
the
19
thing.
years old.
Yeah. It's not a knock on him. It's just the truth, to be honest. And then Nick Paul, we wanted this to work out, but we all know, I think everybody knows, he's just not a top six guy, and he's especially not a top six centerman. So to thrust him in that role just didn't make a lot of sense. I think he's going to thrive on that line that's after the third line. I think it's a good spot for him, and I think playing in a more shut down defensive role with Gambrell and Watson, and he doesn't have to worry about all the kind of nightmares haunting him about how he's not getting any offense going. He just can focus on shutting other teams down.
Yes, and that will be his role. And I think he'd even tell you that's where he excels most at the National Hockey League level. Now, I'm pulling up just an old name here, Matt Duchene, a guy who we know is great in faceoffs. His rookie year, he was 44%. So it's not uncommon for players to step in. We saw it with Shane Pinto. Guy went 18-0 in college and then steps in. I think he's like 40% at the NHL level. So that's the biggest adjustment. Really, Greg told us for him, that was the biggest adjustment moving to the AHL. So you got to think you get to the top level. These guys are snapping it back. Not everyone's Trevor Zegras betting $100 with Ryan O'Reilly that he's going to snap it back on him. That confidence on that kid. And what a dish. He
backs it up.
Night.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with Tim Stützle, I mean, he's going to get comfortable in his skin. Like, remember, Zegras a year older than him too. So this is a situation for Timmy that, yes, he's getting more and more comfortable at center. So the next natural step is how do you surround him with the talent that's going to get him to the top of his abilities. But this brings us into an interesting conversation because, yes, I believe Formenton's the best guy on those left wing outside of Brady. But again, you're not touching the top line.
No.
That's out of the question. So out of those three guys, there's no question in my mind that of Sanford, Paul, and Formenton, Formy's the guy who should get some reps there. But long term, who do you see producing best with Tim Stützle? Is it A, going to have to be a winger from internally, Yarventi, Sokolov, or is Timmy going to shift back to left wing when Shane Pinto comes back? Because we know those two had chemistry, and there's no chance Pinto's moving to the wing. Or third option, Pillsy, they're going to have to make a trade to address that from outside the organization.
Well, let's go through process of elimination here. So I'll start with that first one. And I don't believe there's anyone in this organization right now that will be a long-term fit to be Timmy's wingers right now. Like Connor Brown, I think can work in the short term, but realistically on a cup contending team, Connor Brown is a third line winger. I think most people can understand and appreciate that. And that's not a knock on Connor Brown. I think just if you're looking at a depth chart of teams that go to the cup, him and Nick Paul would be great depth players. They shouldn't be in your top six. So
you're going to get some pushback. We got some last week when we mentioned Connor Brown being a third line guy. And hey, to each their own. Like, he scored over 20 goals last year, so there is an argument to be made. I actually went in depth with it. It was Jordan Cummings. Thanks for the comment, Jordan. But not to cut you off there, but just saying that he's like a 2-3 tweener. But I'm on the same side as you. Like, if he's your third line right wing, you should be a cup contending team.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not trying to knock Connor Brown down here. We all appreciate what Connor Brown does, and I think he's a great player, and acquiring him was a massive, massive piece for this Ottawa Senators team. But right now, he's where he should be. But if this team is having cup aspirations, he needs to be in a third line guy. So Sokolov, I don't think is a good match for Timmy, just because we talk about how Formy is a good match because of the foot speed there, right? So I think you're not really doing any of those guys a favor putting them together, in my opinion, unless it was on the power play. Then I think you got a guy like Timmy who can dish and shoot, and then Sokolov we know can shoot it.
I think as long as you have two guys with speed, Sako could be a great third. Like Heatley never had the speed to keep up with Alfie and Spezza, but he was always finding those soft spots in defensive coverage. So I think that he could certainly complement Timmy in that regard. But the reason why I love Formy is the breakout, the transition. I think they need a little more speed. If they're going to use Sokolov in that role eventually, then you're still going to need a little more speed and creativity, some give and go. You know how Norris and Drake, they're always doing these little give and go plays, quick touches, touch, move. That's what Timmy needs, a guy who can bounce off of back and forth as they break out of the zone. And he just hasn't had that in Nick Paul, unfortunately. And I feel so bad like talking the way we are about Nick Paul, but he's been put in a pretty unfair situation, I think, for his own, skill set.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think if you listen to our episodes, like, we're pretty fair about it. Like, we give him props when he deserves props, and
elite PK guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's so many good. We talked about trading Nick Paul, and I was pretty firm on no, don't trade him, even with the season he's having. So
teams are going to be calling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, teams definitely going to be calling. But I would stick to that stance. I still think he's an important piece of this team, and I think he's a good locker room guy as well. So now moving to the second option, which I think, if I remember correctly, that was
moving him back to wing.
Comes, yeah. See, this is tricky because then, like, what does Tim Stützle think you're doing with him if that happens, right? He's like, okay, I thought I was going to be drafted as a center. Then when I got drafted, the general manager said, no, I'm not a center. I'm a left winger. Okay, now I'm a left winger. I'm going to focus on playing left wing. All right, I got a good centerman in Pinto and then Brown. This is a line that works. I'm fine with this. Pinto goes down. The Paul, Stutzle, Brown line doesn't exactly work. I'm going to center. Now I'm playing at center. I finally got it figured out. Pinto's healthy. I'm going back to the wing. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of gives him the sense that, like, the management is willing to move me wherever and they'll just make it work. Not they're building around me. Where I think Timmy needs to have some sort of solidarity where he can just be like, I'm a winger, I'm focusing on wing stuff. I'm center, I'm focusing on center stuff. So if you start mixing them back and forth, I think that kind of messes with his development a little bit. Although I think that line of Stutzle on the wing, Pinto at center, and Brown on the right wing is and was very effective. But who knows when Pinto's going to be back here? He's got a long-term injury. So you can't just keep throwing Timmy on the wing with guys that it's not working with. So I'm not really sure how to feel about that one. And then also, I don't like the idea of keeping Timmy at center and then even moving him to a third line role or moving Pinto to a third line role. That doesn't really jive with me either. I don't think that makes sense either. So I'm going to cut out that option as well. So that's left with the third option. And this scares me because we've seen what the pro scouting staff does here in Ottawa, and it's not exactly great. But I think they need to acquire someone externally, and we've talked. There's multiple options. Claude Giroux, the Strome brothers are options there. Giroux is definitely the best option, and then another one I'll throw in, and I'll give credit to Derek Lee of Future Sickos podcast. He was saying that Clayton Keller could be a very interesting guy because the Arizona
long term.
Yeah, and at a nice contract. And the Arizona Coyotes, they can't even pay their arena bills. Yes. How are they going to start paying some of their top guys here? They're trying to shed Kessel's salary. They're going to trade him for sure. So they're looking to move some cap here, and this is a big draft year for them. So really, by the time their prospects from this draft year are ready, Clayton Keller is going to be at the end of that deal. And what was the point of holding him and paying him all that time, right? So I think they're definitely someone that Clayton Keller, he can play the left or the right wing. And man, that's a guy with a lot of offensive upside that would work very well with Tim Stützle, in my opinion.
He's also got a huge contract, cap hit of 7.1 for the next 4 years. So.
I think he's worth it though. If you start looking at his points, maybe you're like, oh, that's not the points of a guy who's getting paid that much. Well, look at his line mates. Give the guy a break, right? And in his rookie season, Ross, if I'm not mistaken, he had 65 points with the Arizona Coyotes. So, the offense is there. And if you can get him in a second line role, because Clayton Keller right now, he's basically their go-to guy. And that's not where he should be. So if you get him in a second line role with Timmy at center, and then, even a guy like Connor Brown on that wing, I think they could have a lot of success.
We've got more to touch on with this topic. We just put out a poll at Send Central on Twitter. How would you handle Tim Stützle's line in the years going forward? Internal options, move to left wing when Shane Pinto is back. You need to trade for a left or right wing, or other. So go have your say at Send Central. The poll is going to be up for 2 days, and I'm very interested on what these results will show. Make sure you're also locked on Senators. Wherever you download your podcast, we'll get you the initial reviews on that poll after a word from our friends at Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Come on, you already know all the great flavors that Built Bar has in store. They're all 100% covered in chocolate. They're all soft and easy to chew, and they're great for the health-conscious guy or girl as well, because you can lose or maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat. The bars are low in calorie, low in sugar, but they're high in protein and high in fiber. A nutritional grand slam, and you can get yours today at BuiltBar.com. You can go check out all the products we recommend, the mix box. Go try them all and decide which Built Bar you like the best. So use our promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your next order. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order.
And Ross, it's holiday season. The weather's getting colder up here in the Blue Mountains. Blue Mountain Ski Resort opened today, so everyone is getting stoked. And when it's the holiday season, you need to make sure you're keeping your feet warm. Nothing worse than being out on the hill, being out on a hike, going to work, and your feet are cold and you're not comfortable. They don't fit properly in your shoes. Get rid of that. Get some good socks, and a great place to get some good socks, guys, is Stance. Founded in 2009, Stance Apparel represents a radical reinvention of socks, underwear, and active apparel. So it's not just socks. With a sharp focus on comfort, quality, and creativity, Stance brings an atypical aesthetic alongside some of pop culture's hottest collabs for ultimate style and self-expression. Because you should wear what is a direct extension of who you are and how you feel. You know those people that always have a good sock game? You can be one of those people if you check out Stance. Stance believes that the perfect fit matters more than fitting in. Just because you have bright socks, if they don't fit good and if they don't feel good, well, you're not doing yourself any favor. So go see for yourself. Register for an account today at stance.com and get 15% off your first purchase. Use promo code LOCKEDON and at your checkout to apply. Enjoy the color and comfort of a life less ordinary with Stance. Check it out today, guys. Stance.com, 15% off your first purchase with promo code LOCKEDON.
All right, Pillsy, lots of great comments coming in quick to that poll we put up at Send Central. The big topic: how would you handle Tim Stützle's line in the years going forward? Will internal options work? Should he move to left wing when Shane Pinto gets back? Or you absolutely need to trade for a top 6 left wing or right winger? We'll get to those in a moment. Got to tell you as well that later on in today's show, we're going to discuss Belleville Senators. They're back in action, starting a big road trip, and the Senators are on the ice tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. start. Note the start time, 1 p.m. against a banged up Tampa Bay Lightning team. But I'm so intrigued by this topic because the Senators have done something that there's contending teams they haven't done. They've found a perfect chemistry on their top line. There's nothing needs to change with that. And I think once you start shifting guys around, you start getting in trouble. We know that Drake can play with Timmy. And does that solve your problems? Sure. And then you have Zach Sanford play on the top line, right? So I think that they've done well in finding that top line. But Timmy is like the most important person in this organization to get going and to get his confidence up. So I already asked where you would vote. Where do you think the fans are beginning on this?
Ross, you know I'm an honor system guy. I've already checked. And the fans, these are educated, smart fans that just get the game of hockey, Ross. They really get it. And it seems like most of them are agreeing with me.
Yeah, they are. Well, here at Wonder Carrot says it's Giroux. We all know adding Giroux makes this a formidable 4-line team.
Yep.
Put him on Stutzle's wing. 2 of 3 lines with 2 compete. 3 pieces can be internal. Line 3 is the identity line. And then, of course, you got tons of options for the 4th line. I like what Chris Pierce has to say at NHL Stathead. Said, I voted for the 3rd, but honestly, I really want to see how Pinto does full-time next year. To me, he's got Krejci or Cirelli potential, and both those guys anchored second lines for very good teams. Kind of hate to proactively stick him on the third line already. And that's where things get even more interesting, because Shane Pinto was that guy. He was that dude this year too, before the injury. And then now it's just such a toss-up. So, hey, it's a good problem to have for a team that didn't have much center depth. If you can get in a situation where you have Norris, Stutzle, and Pinto all in the middle with Ridley Gregg blowing the door down, running through, hitting the door down from behind, you could say, doing anything he needs to do to get to the NHL level, then you start to have those internal options. But again, and I know we keep going back to it, and maybe it's a pipe dream, because what 30th place team acts like buyers at this time of year, right? And that's the kind of trade we're asking for.
Well, eventually you have to be a buyer, though, and it's scary because the Sens were buyers last offseason. The big Derek Stepan, the big Matt Murray acquisitions, and they fell on their face, right? So It's nerve-wracking in that sense, but there's a lot of positives here, right? Like Giroux has publicly stated he would be interested in going to Ottawa. Now, has that changed, or what is that interest level exactly? We're not sure, but it's been said, it's out there. So that's why we have some sort of hope here. And not only does it bring in a guy with veteran experience up the middle, because all those center depth you listed, that's great. But none of these guys are over the age of like 23, 24. So there's not a lot of experience up the middle. And then you start getting into playoff rounds up against teams that have experienced centermen. That's going to show. It's going to be very apparent. So you need a guy that can take those faceoffs. And then you can have Timmy play that center position with Giroux taking the draws and then shifting to the wing. Like, in my mind, there is no more ideal player to acquire than Claude Giroux right now.
Yeah. It's too bad he's not 31, eh? Like 34, you're starting to be, but the production just hasn't waned.
I'm not too upset about it, because you don't need him to be here long term. You just need him to support these guys for a little bit. You need at least a 2-year extension. You need at least a 2-year extension. Yeah. At least. That takes him through his 36-year-old year. And by all rumors, he wants to retire in Ottawa. What an invaluable resource would he be to add to a development or coaching or managerial front office? Now, again, perfect world, and the Sens have proven perfect worlds don't exist time and time again, but the stars could align there. Imagine a world where Claude Giroux and Daniel Alfredson and Chris Phillips are all a part of this team. Couldn't be me, but hey, every night I close my eyes and I can't even get close to that imagination. Ross.
I know
you lost me real quick.
You didn't even crack, like, not even a grin. You didn't even smile one bit. The way I would power rank the options I put up, you need to make the trade. Second, I would bite the bullet and move him to left wing, just because we've seen it work with Pinto in that small sample size. And I think Pinto, we know that he's so dominant down the middle and has been, that he's the guy who I'd probably give that first chance to, with Stutzle on his wing. I think that they, again, complement each other real well. And my third choice would be internal options. But right now, that moving him to left wing is the lowest of any of the choices, because people want to see Timmy.
It just limits him. That's the thing, right? It just, him at the wing makes him wait for the play to come to him. And it also puts him at a disadvantage going up against those constant board battles, which we've talked about, right? So moving him to the wing isn't the best option, but when you have chemistry with a guy like Pinto and then Brown on that line as well, you at least need to go back to that. You need to go back to that well and see what you got there. So I agree with that sentiment.
We've got our first other reply, and then we'll move on, because we do have some previews to get into on today's show. At In7Sens, that's tough, because the Sens have actually never won a Game 7 in franchise history. That being said, he says, I think they'll fill one of the holes on the wing with a top 5 pick this year. The question is, how soon will that player be ready to play in the NHL? The other wing would have to be a free agent pickup. So, I mean, that's kind of option C with the with having to make a trade, or I guess I didn't say free agency. I should have just said externally bringing in, but he makes a good point. What if you draft that player? But we've seen it. Like, the Sens have all those draft capital assets. Like, I guess they're not top 5 picks, or else they'd be in the lineup just like Timmy did right away. But then are we asking which vets can help those guys along? I think you really need to bring in, I guess that's what he's saying with a free agent, but you really need to bring in someone who has 8-9 years in the league, I think, who can really get this ball rolling and get the locker room in a place where you bring this guy in and the whole group's like, okay, now we're serious. Like now. And again, I hate going back to it, but the Flyers are such a joke right now. Giroux is that guy.
They need to shed some cap space, because it's just not working for them this season, although they've had injury problems. But and that's the thing too, Ross. That option is great. Sure, you get a top 5 pick, top 5 forward, but then all you're doing is kicking that problem down the road, and then that makes Norris is going to have to be a veteran centerman if that's your option, right? So that doesn't exactly cut it. I mean, a right way of thinking, but I don't think it's the path the Sens are on right now.
And Josh Norris just played his 83rd game in the National Hockey League, so technically just one full season at this point. Timmy's not even there yet, and so on and so forth. So a young team that fans can all see the pieces, and maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. People are writing in, hey, stay on the path. Maybe next offseason you get
We've been on this path.
At least the players that are in the that were in the biggest drafts for the rebuild, the 2019, 2020, they're all in the organization. Even to their 7th rounder, Gannett is from 2019. Their 6th rounder, Cole Reinhardt's been playing in the AHL, right? The pieces that they've drafted for the rebuild are all contributing somewhere in the organization. So
we're just waiting on Eric Engstrand.
Oh my God, we're going to be waiting. When I went to North Dakota, I can't wait. We're exactly 1 month until you and I are down at the Ralph.
So excited.
I absolutely cannot wait. But it's the Ralph Engelstad Arena, and I'm pretty sure that it was the same number. Did he wear number 21 or 23? Sorry. Anyways, if he did, it kind of looks, if you look real quick, it looks like Engstrand. And I was like, wait, he plays for Nodak? Wouldn't put it past him. And I wouldn't put it past you to win a parlay going into the weekend. Are we feeling good about that at betonline.ag, where you can go and use promo code Locked On to get a 50% welcome bonus? You feeling good about that, Billsy?
I feel decent about this parlay. I take a couple days off here, and I'm going to try something a little different here, Ross. We're going 2 different leagues here, not just different teams. We're parlaying 2 different leagues. And
are you trying to win this one, or are you trying to lose it?
Oh, I'm trying to win.
Okay.
I'm trying to win.
All right.
So here we go. The Providence Bruins money line plus 135.
Stop it.
No, but listen to me, Ross.
Stop it.
I mushed the Sens by putting them in my parlay to win that Islanders game. So
Florida's minus 303.
We're not there yet. So this way, and Providence and Belleville, their money line was both plus 135. Very interesting to have that happen. So this way, if Providence wins, I'm happy. If Belleville wins, I'm also happy. I'm going to get back to doing that. And then no one can blame me for the mush either.
Can't you win both ways then? If you just bet both sides?
Yeah. But then you're just losing the opposite bet, right? So you're just breaking even. If that's what you're trying to do.
No, because if they're both plus, then if I bet 10 and I bet 10, then I'm going to win 350 either way.
Yeah. Ooh.
There you go.
Might have found a loophole here.
Woo!
And too bad we can't do a parlay, Providence Bruins and Belleville Senators. Hey, that would be nice. And then, guys, I'm going to keep going back to this. The Arizona Coyotes are so bad. Florida is going to beat them. So that's just a throw in to make it a parlay. Providence Bruins money line, Florida Panthers money line. Put $10 in. Bingo, bango, bongo. You're going to win 21-26. That is Pillsy's parlay of the day.
Locked On. That's the promo code that gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Pillsy. So it's a Senators game day, Belleville, tonight, and an Ottawa Senators game day tomorrow. But I need to go back to one more reply on this poll because it leads us into a quick topic we need to get into. Chris Casey writes in, Viktor Lodin. I need to see them make some magic together, assuming he can get to the NHL level. Is Viktor Lodin like David Rundblad 2.0? Because I remember sitting in my dorm room in college watching Magic Number 7, the YouTube video of 44 games worth of David Rundblad. It's 8 minutes of edge of your seat, get your popcorn ready. So I always temper expectations with the SHL, but we've seen some nasty moves from Viktor Lodin this year, but he finally scored on one of them.
That was such a nice goal. Like, oh my God, this guy he's pulling off Trevor Zegras-like plays in the SHL. So That's pretty impressive. And I can't wait. Hopefully this guy makes it to Belleville next year, Ross. He's got to, eh? So I would love to see more of him, but that is the kind of skill that we're talking about. So if he can keep climbing through the ranks here, maybe it's interesting. But for now, he's just like a fun little toy
Side
you look
project.
at every once in a while. Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep our eye on that fun side project. But for now, that's a bit of a pipe dream.
It could be, but at the same time, man, for a 4th-round pick, like you're feeling pretty good about that right now. The way he's producing, it's too bad, right? You see him tearing it up. You're like, oh man, can't wait to see him in World Juniors. You look, he's 22 already. You're like,
Darn.
damn. Yeah, 2018 draft, so same as Brady Tkachuk and Jacob Bernard Docker, who might play on Saturday. Segue of the day right there. Do you think JBD will play? And is it a little much to ask him to be thrown into the fire against Tampa Bay Lightning?
I don't think he plays. The afternoon game, I think, is weird. I think you want your veterans playing those games. And then I think on the road trip, do they play? No, they play Florida, then Tampa, right? On the road?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So
and then they finish up at Philly. So maybe throw Giroux in the jet on the way back from there.
Yeah, true. Save Melnick some money. That's important. So that'll be interesting to see. I bet he doesn't play Saturday, but he then comes into the next game.
Okay. Well, against the Tampa Bay Lightning, this is a team that's completely banged up. So when I'm going through and seeing like who's my lookout player, and it's apparent for me, Steven Stamkos. It has to be like this guy. He's the only like
put up 4 points last night.
Legitimate star, and he always plays well in Toronto. But I mean, you could say that about almost every team that he's played against because he's just that kind of player. Him and Andre Palat. Palat has the best plus minus in the National Hockey League over the last 5 years. I need to look it up because it's absolutely ridiculous.
It's wild. It's in the hundreds, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely absurd. He's such an underrated player. 18 points in 26 games this year. He's got 392 points in 577 games. Pilsy, in 577 games, 10 years, he's plus 140. That is ridiculous.
That's wild, man. The
he was only plus one last year.
He's been a part of.
Yeah,
oh, boy.
Yeah, so undercover player, but I got to go with Steven Stamkos. Just the heart and soul of that team. And as the other centermen were hurt, and say what you want, guys, even Stamkos moved to the wing for parts of the last couple of years because they have Braden Point, they have Anthony Cirelli. Both of those guys will not play tomorrow. I shouldn't say it so convincingly, but they're both listed as out right now.
I don't think there's any chance for them to play. Yeah, I don't think they're coming back soon.
Well, there you go. So you're looking at a guy who's two guys who are out of the lineup who have dominated, especially I feel like Cirelli always scores against the Ottawa Senators. He's been really good for them. So who steps up? The captain, 32 points in 25 games. You mentioned 4 points last night. He's on an absolute heater himself. He is on, he's on a 9-game point streak right now. So he could hit double digits if he's able to score against Ottawa. He's got points in 11 of his last 12 games if you rewind it even further. So I'm going to be looking out for Steven Stamkos. How about yourself?
Yeah, that what an all-time player Stamkos is, man. I get like you said, there's not a lot of options here. I'm going to go with Victor Hedman then. Like if you're taking the top guy up front, I'll take the top guy on the back end because Victor Hedman, this guy was created in a lab in Sweden to be the greatest defenseman ever. And he's got all the tools you need. And it's going to be tough for the Senators. That top line, like Brady Tkachuk's going to have his work cut out for him. He's trying to stand in front of that net with Victor Hedman on top of him all night. So that's going to be my lookout player.
And Ryan McDonough as well, another really solid defenseman. Ottawa will get lucky again. No Eric Chernak in the lineup. He's another big physical defenseman that they've gotten. I always like to point this stat out because it's so peculiar. But Andrei Vasilevsky has the worst save percentage against Ottawa than any other team he's played more than 5 times. Isn't that kind of weird? He's played 12 games against Ottawa. 12 games against Ottawa, and he has an .895 save percentage and a .324 goals against average.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, his career save percentage is .920.
Ross, I never thought I'd say this, but give me Vasilevsky instead of Brian Elliott.
Oh my God, are we doing the former Senators goalie again?
Brian, I know we've already done this, haven't we? Brian Elliott's
he beat
stats
Ottawa earlier this year
are very good up against the Senators. So give us Vazzy.
Brian Elliott is 7-0-2 against the Ottawa Senators with a .921 save percentage. Always a fun fact about Brian Elliott. He was the last pick in the NHL draft, which I think usually you would call that Mr. Irrelevant, right?
He's been
irrelevant. I feel like that's a baseball term. But that being said, I'm just scrolling down to confirm. Second last pick in the draft, and he's played 507 games. That's pretty impressive.
And he's got a cup. Does he have 2 William Jennings trophies? I know he has one with Halaf in St. Louis.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that might be the only one. I could be wrong though. But 291st overall. That pick doesn't even exist anymore. That was when the draft was 9 rounds long.
That's crazy. So hey, shout out Brian Elliott. I was always a fan of his in Ottawa, and I think he's had a great career.
Shout out for getting us Craig Anderson too.
Yeah, also clutch. Yeah. So for moving on to Locked On players, you got the easy one for the Lightning, Ross. Yep. I'm taking the easy one today. It's Alex Formenton. I mean, this is your shot, kid. This is your shot. Like, you've been waiting, you've been struggling. The COVID thing happened, and now you're feeling it. You're on a hot streak. You're getting to play in a top role with Tim Stützle as your centerman. Make it happen. Don't let DJ regret this move. And like, when Shane Pinto comes back, this whole roster could potentially be shooken up, right? So now that you have the opportunity, take it. So I'm expecting big things from Formenton today. On Saturday, sorry.
Yes. Well, if you're listening to this on Saturday, Pilsy was just right. And reminder, we will be doing our postcast afterwards. Pilsy's going to be up in farmland, so we'll hope the internet holds out. Maybe we'll get Lalim's Martian in the bullpen in case we need a last-minute flip. But, hey, it's your team every day here on Locked On Senators, and we really appreciate everyone making us your first listen of the day. No Adam Gaudette, hasn't played since he scored a goal. We talked about that in yesterday's show. DJ Smith just saying the biggest things are defensive and pace. You can't give away free chances. Yes. I'm going to look at him in the next couple of games, and maybe it'll be on the wing. So, sure. All right, the Adam Gaudette experience going great for Ottawa. My locked-on player, though, and I think he's been my locked-on player, maybe even in 2 of the last 3 games.
But I've done for me a lot, so don't worry.
I'm just waiting for Thomas Chabot to break out here. I know it's in him. I know it's coming soon. How many defensemen can you say have 13 shots in their last 3 games? He's got 4 points in those 3 games as well. He's so good. He looks amazing on the ice. He just needs to get 1 goal. Just get 1 goal past, and then I think the dam will burst.
And Ross, it's funny, Ian Mendez on one of his recent articles, he did a comparison of other defensemen who have played, I forget the threshold, but have played a significant amount of games and minutes that don't have any goals, and it is a sad sight to see Thomas Chabot in a collection with those guys. So something's got to change there. So I like that a lot. My key to victory here, Ross, we talked about how this Tampa Bay Lightning lineup is very different than the back-to-back Stanley Cup champion roster. But I'm taking a look on defense here, Ross, and Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, Mikhail Sergachev. Those are their top 3 defensemen, right? All on the left side. Now, let's take a look at the right side. Jan Ruta, Zach Bogosian, Cal Foote. Pressure that right side. If you're dumping the puck in the corner, get it to the right side. If you're making a break up the wing, do it on that side. Like, that's the weak side of defense for sure. So try to exploit that and try to capitalize on that and use that to your advantage and dominate breaking out on that side. That's my key to the victory.
My key to victory here is don't overuse Shabby. Like, get to a situation where he's playing 25, 26 minutes. Sure, that should be the absolute most, because you might remember that on December 17th, 2019, which I believe I slowed down when I said that because I think Ottawa was playing in Tampa on the 16th. So not exactly 2 years later, but I was at that game visiting my parents who are down snowbirds in Florida, and that game saw Thomas Chabot play the most minutes in a single game in the last 6 years in the National Hockey League against Tampa Bay. Do you remember?
38 minutes?
37.50.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the second largest time on ice in one game was also Ottawa player at Tampa 4 years before that. Also in December, randomly enough. Erik Karlsson played 36-34. Those are the 2 highest time on ice games in the last 6 years. Both Ottawa players at Tampa Bay. That's
Crazy.
a little water cooler chatter for you at the office.
There you go.
No, people are listening this Friday afternoon or Saturday. So another strikeout for me. But my key to victory, yeah. If you can get a lead, that'd be great, because Ottawa's shown that when they score first, they're actually a tough team to beat. Who would have thought that, eh, Pills? Like,
yeah, what a strategy.
They score first, they're 4-4. The only problem is they've only scored first 8 times in 24 games.
Yeah, it's been tough, and especially up against the Lightning. Oh, I don't know if they can pop an early one here.
But again, this is not the Lightning that won the cup. You're looking at a lot of guys out of the lineup, and I think that Ottawa could take advantage of that. Okay, one more thing before we go, Pills. Yeah, I tweeted this photo out on Twitter at Send Central. Now, that is wild. If you're watching us on YouTube, we appreciate that. Please subscribe to our YouTube. It actually goes a long way. Hit us with a little thumbs up there in the corner. You can see it right below, right there. It is a photo of, what's this guy's name? Holland. Eric Holland, I think.
I'm saying that as if I know. I don't know.
Well, so if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, you're like, wow, this is absolutely brutal radio. But it looks like Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle had a baby. And it's a pro soccer player.
All they need is some Swedish hair genes in there, and then that's the perfect match. But that one is pretty classic, and shout out that guy.
Yeah, no doubt. So I guess Sens fans have a new player to cheer for out in the German, what do they call it? The Elite League?
Not the Bundesliga?
There you go. The German.
Das Bundesliga.
Coming through clutch for us. Prediction for tomorrow. You think the Sens are going to manage a victory?
This is a tough game to predict. Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not feeling it, but that also means they're probably going to win outright. So I'm saying 4-2 Tampa.
I led you into that because I know that you also bet in your parlay against the Belleville Senators. What are you hoping to see tonight? We're not sure yet if Matt Murray will get the start, but it would certainly be a great way to kick off a season-long road trip.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, this Providence team has been doing well this year, and they've played a lot less games than other teams, so I think they're going to be hungry. And no Hetherington, no JBD. If you talk to Troy Mann, he's lost both of his best defensemen. Now, Lassie Thompson has been away for a while, so that kind of takes him out of the running of that title. But when you lose 2 top defensemen in the AHL, that really changes things for your team here. So luckily, Cody Goluboff agreed to a PTO, so that helps him out. But
he's back.
Yeah, exactly. But I think they're up tough here, and Providence could do some damage.
I should mention it's a 4-game road trip. They do have one 5-gamer later on, but that starts and ends in Toronto and Laval. So it's still in Canada. This is a 4-game all through the United States, and it'd just be awesome if you could see some Matt Murray bounce back potential. So we'll let you know when we know if he's starting tonight on Twitter at Send Central. You can follow the show on Instagram as well, LockedOn.Senators. Pillsy, anything else before we take off for the weekend?
I was gonna say go Sens go, but I don't know.
Why don't you tell everyone to join the postcast on Saturday?
Oh yeah, boom, that's it. So definitely, guys, we've been having fun on the postcast. As Ross and I do, we've been going much longer than we intend to, but time flies when you're having fun, right? And the chat's been awesome. We get a bunch of people hopping on, and yeah, like Ross said, I'm going to be at my farm, so the internet is not very good. We'll see how that goes, but yeah, it's going to be fun, and we love doing the postcast. We should do this all the time. It's so much fun.
Yes, well, we'll see you there tomorrow after the Senators host the Tampa Bay Lightning, 1:00 start. Hope you have a great start to your weekend. We'll talk to you tomorrow. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.